Commissioner Britton,
Here.
Commissioner Fournier.
Here. They will now stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
and
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the agenda,
Make a motion.
and I'll support. Public comment. Anything on? No. Okay, moving on. All right, I do have something to bring to our attention, and that's the emergency management position. We do have a couple of choices. There was two that we talked about, and one was Nick and the other one was JP. We could either mention one today to have them, or bring them in, or I don't know what you like to do.
Yeah, I've got it like.
Get
caught
I know
up.
he wants to.
Well, he's part of
Oh,
the
we
committee.
do have another one. It's heck,
I'm here.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
it's heck to get old and have another birthday, isn't it?
It's tough. I go to reach into my trunk and it automatically shuts. I got my finger there and I'm like, oh, that hurt.
That hurt.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, I just brought it,
We just placed an emergency manager.
yeah, sure. We have a choice. We have Nick or JP. So what is your pleasure? What would you like to do?
So I just talked to Prescott this morning and they're interested in,
Now,
yeah, so,
in a month.
well, I can't, I called them and they were supposed to put it on the agenda. They are very interested in it. And so he said he's going to talk to one of the other commissioners. They have several commissioners that are very interested in going in with us on emergency manager. So I think we should at least wait to find out the details and preliminary details. They seem like they're pretty much good with what we were proposing to do with Montmorency. So
Yeah,
What was that exactly? Because that was before me.
before you,
Yeah.
Montmorency.
well,
That's been
as far
going on
as
forever.
what, the pay or,
Yeah. How was it structured? How did it?
well, Jesse has all the, I think we were somewhere around 60,000, which is they were going to split the half of that. And I think there was some details with the vehicle that they were going to pay towards, because we'd obviously, we have a vehicle for emergency manager. So again, I think, I won't say what I heard, but one of the commissioners that I originally talked to wasn't, I think he had some concerns about some things, but I said, how do you feel that the rest of the board will go with this? Because they have a 5-person board. He said two of them are extremely interested. When I talked to the chairman, he was interested. I think he has some other concerns that aren't related to the emergency manager position, but I said, how do you feel that they would go if is it something that you think will happen? And he said, yes. So we just need to obviously discuss details on, the costs and stuff like that. But the numbers that they initially threw out to me were pretty much where we were with Montmorency.
So there's a few questions. Are they expecting to be included in the interview process? And do we now have to start this all over again for
Well, they have, apparently they've already gone through an interview process. So
people?
what's that?
Have their own people?
Well, I wouldn't say they have their own people. They have people that are applied for their position. And I think if what we do, I don't feel comfortable knowing that what the cost is going to be, because literally we're talking $90,000 addition the budget. If we jump into this and then they say to us, we're good with this. And whatever we were, whatever the specific details that Mount Morency is going to contribute, I think we wouldn't be doing ourselves, we wouldn't be helping ourselves, because again, I'm not, and I've said this before, supporting an additional position for $90,000. I just think that's,
Though, because we already cover, it's less than 60.
well, I still think that, my concern is it's going to be a bigger addition. Well, you're saying we had the funding for the part-time position, but we don't have the funding for the full-time position.
Right. So the full-time position, I had earmarked 40,000 for the 26 budget. Once we worked out and we did the high end of like the insurance for like family, just in case. So we did high end everything. It was just under 40,000, I think.
40,000 for this year.
No, 40,000 in addition to what we are currently paying the EM. So if we were to take the current EM budget, we'd have to put another 40,000 on there in order to have a full-time.
And we do have,
No, we're not paying any, I mean, it's her, she's taking part of her money out from the EM and part of her money from 911.
So 30, we're paying right now out of the general fund, 30,000, a little over $30,000 out of the general fund for the EM.
Well, let me ask you this, because I don't see that position being filled for 75.
It's being filled for 62. I think is what we advertised it for.
I know, but then you get the benefits and all that other stuff, which
Right,
we're gonna have to add in, which is closer to the 90.
So that was worked in.
What's that?
That was worked into that 40. I did.
I still don't see it. Anyway,
I'm not, I'm just letting you know, that's,
my feeling is, I think I know this has gone on for a while, but again, we were initially going to go with Mount Morency. My feeling is, and again, I'm one person, but my feeling is we should check into this if they're willing to do it. See what they're, and again, he said that he would call me back after he talks to this other guy, probably in a few days. He actually wanted me to come up to Posen Potato Festival this weekend so I could talk to the guy, but I said, give me his number. I'll reach out to him. We can figure out, it's not going to hurt us if we wait. I mean, even if we wait another month, we're at this point, we've already been waiting several months as it is, so. But again, I'm one person.
Regarding the possibility of JP taking a position, I mean, full disclosure, he's a friend of mine, but I don't know how that's gonna work from a money
Well,
standpoint.
yeah, so JP, we've already talked to the sheriff and the sheriff has said there's no way, well, that's going to cost us even more money because if JP were to take the position, JP is not going to go down right now. He's probably at 90,000.
It's actually more than that, but
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm trying to be conservative.
yeah.
So he's not going to take that for much less, I think even if we offered it to him for 75, which is more than we were planning to pay. And now we have to fill a position out of the sheriff, so.
the sheriff could fill that position for less than what he's paying JP for right
But
now.
we're still going to pay JP and we're going to have to fill that position, so.
We're gonna have to pay somebody anyway.
so, yeah, just a couple of notes. One is JP was in my office and originally when we talked about this, he'd missed the first deadline, I think, for submitting his application. And when he found out what we were offering, that's what triggered him to then apply the second time. My understanding was he's looking at closing in on retirement and was looking for something maybe a little less dangerous, I guess. I mean, for lack of a better word, in his last years. Now that could have very well changed. And I don't know, there was also an oddity because when I had met with him previously, he asked if there was a possibility of it being transferred to under the care of the sheriff. And I said no at that time because it wasn't a discussion. But then it seemed like he may have been having some other discussions with members of the board and some other individuals where he thinks that maybe that is a possibility. So I don't know if they're thinking maybe that he's going to be doing like part-time sergeant works, part-time, or something else at the sheriff's department, maybe not sergeant work, but maybe something else. So this is where I think it might be good for me to collect a little bit of information on the two. Another concern is we have been dragging this out and whether or not Presque Isle County agrees to partake or not. I mean, the direction that I understand right now that the board wants to take is we do want to fill the position with a full-time individual as of 2026. So if Presque
Some on the board, because I still,
right, well, the majority of the board voted. I mean, Bill, I'm just saying, so if that is the way that we're going, that's where my question was, do they now expect to be part of the hiring process, or are they looking just to contract with us once we have the individual, which in that case can happen at any time and alleviate pressure off the budget? And we have months before we finalize the 2026 budget. So what we're looking at right now is in reality, probably $7,000 to $10,000 findings and funds to get us through the rest of 2025, should we bring somebody on full time. So I don't know if it sounds like there's some stuff unknown about each of the candidates. I'm happy to go and collect that information, I guess, if you guys would like. And then that would buy you time, Commissioner, to have more conversations with Presque as far as what they're anticipating. Are they knowing we have a vacancy? Are they expecting to have a seat at the table? Do they want this individual? Montmorency was fine with them working from here and just going there every once in a while.
and I did say that.
Are they gonna allow 50-50 or?
I literally said to them, because of the concerns that Montmorency had, Montmorency bailed out because they were concerned that if we had an emergency like we just had with the ice storm, that they needed 100% whatever dedicated person to do that. And I said, realistically, and again, we can't expect that every emergency is going to hit us like this last one did. If for whatever type of emergency is, if they need 100% dedicated person to Presque, I think we could survive a week or two or whatever in that situation. Hopefully an emergency isn't going to hit us where, we're both out and need a dedicated emergency manager, because I don't know, I just don't see that type of an emergency. I do think that when I had mentioned that we would be willing to do something like that, he did show interest in that he thinks that would work.
And then my only other note would be, obviously there's a population difference, there's a geographical difference between Montmorency and Presque. I don't know if that will affect the cost of expecting again this individual to be up there at all, for certain durations.
Well, I know, I would think, I don't know the distance, but I'm sure Montmorency and Presque, if we had an individual having to go over from here to Montmorency, it's probably similar to having a person go from Alpena up to Presque, roughly. And that was going to work out with them. So I see that this same type of situation will work out with Presque if everything works out and they buy into it.
So I guess I go back to, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on my directive so that I know what I'm doing when I talk to these individuals and when I'm collecting information. If Presque pulls out, is it the board's intention then not to fill the position? Or is Presque hinging on us filling the position for 26? Because right now,
We have to fill.
I guess for me right now, my question is, this is affecting the budget that I'm putting together by $40,000 one way or the other. And also the questions that I'm going to have for the two individuals. And then also, Commissioner, if it's okay, I'd like to talk to the administrator up in Presque just to see what their expectations are, and talking with their board chair, unless, like, for example, like I said, which counties are expected to be on what days? Are they helping cover part of the mileage? Are they?
I did mention that.
Okay.
Again, I said the same thing that we had an agreement with Montmorency. We pretty much, when I initially talked to the chair, we talked about all
Because
that.
the mileage wasn't part of the package with Montmorency. The mileage was above and beyond.
Well, but they were covering a portion of the vehicle, I thought.
They were going to cover the mileage and we'd cover the vehicle. So they would cover the mileage where, even if it's within Alpena County, they were paying for the mileage and we were giving them the vehicle.
Well, again, I think that for us to make a decision right now, especially when I talked to he wasn't the chair, the guy that he told me that's on board with this is their vice chair. The person that I talked to initially who was on board with it is their chair. So between their vice chair and their chair and the chair of personnel up there, I think we got three people that are looking or thinking that this is a possibility that it could work.
But yeah, so I guess again, I'm just looking for direction. Are we not filling the 2026 position then? if Presqu'île doesn't come through? Or am I still moving ahead as if we are at full time?
Again, I would tell you what, I mean, I wouldn't say that we're not filling it, but again, I'm just concerned that the cost of this position for one full-time position, I'm not on board with that.
You done?
Yeah.
Tim, do you have anything you'd like to
A
add?
couple of things if I could.
Yes, you may.
And these are kind of side items, just for your kind of FYI. So one thing that's not a small item is that the state and fed year starts October 1st. So I have a plethora of paperwork to get turned into the state this month regarding what our reimbursement requests are going to be for next year. So the salary and setup of this position, I want to be diligent and I want to get the county the appropriate reimbursement for next year. But, so the sooner we have that information, hopefully I can hit deadlines to turn that specific information in. I just want to make sure that we get the appropriate amount from the state for that program from the state. The other item that I would just like to mention for your situational awareness, for these conversations with Presqu'île, during the storm, because Montmorency did not have an emergency manager, they brought up an incident management team that came from Oakland County and they ran the Emergency Operations Center for Montmorency. Presqu'île also received some help from an organization that came and ran their EOC. We did not participate in that. By the time we were offered that help, we were so far into the storm that it seemed that it would take more time to catch somebody up of where we were and what was going on than to just finish it ourselves. So we just finished it ourselves. Those, I believe Presqu'île's were volunteers. I know Montmorency, I believe they paid $8,000 or $9,000 for the team that came up and assisted them, but they did everything. So I guess my point that I'd like to make is when you're having this discussion with Presqu'île regarding if there was an emergency that we could get by temporarily without one, rather than offering that option, my recommendation would be to consider adding to the contract. However, the two parties decide to make it work. So just slightly sidestepping, when Montmorency approved to hire their full-time EM, they also put in the language of the board action that if they had to open their emergency operations center again, if they were to activate, they would again hire that team to come up from downstate. So they are going to have an emergency manager full-time and an incident management team, which seems a little, I think we still could have moved forward and added that to our contract. So my point is to you, instead of offering for one or the other county to be moving forward temporarily without an EM, or let's be prepared in case something hit us again, let's consider adding that to the contract, and how you decide to do it would be we can have a conversation offline about it, but I think that to do a two-county solution, that if one or the other or both activates, what does that look like? I think that should be spelled out in the contract, just so that we're not thinking on the fly when somebody's in the midst of a crisis. There are those teams available through the state, and I think that we should have that on our radar. God forbid, should we ever need it again. Even it does come with a cost, but my interpretation of that is that for every week, every month, every year that we should potentially share an EM where everybody is benefiting from that budget savings, on the ones off that we need that again, I think it would be a good investment.
Well, when I was talking to him, again, this is very preliminary conversations. I just said, and I know, because I talked to Mary, that ice storm, it was the reason that they said we need to go with a full-time person. And again, the conversations after the ice storm, when I first found out that they were moving in the direction of going on their own, I did say to her, I said, if we ever had an emergency where, and again, this is the next time we have something in Alpena, probably won't be anything related to an ice storm because it'll be something else that we weren't prepared for or expecting. But I said, if there was a situation where in the future you needed a person dedicated for a week or whatever,
Right.
I think we could, that's not
I know
something,
that both counties aren't affected,
Yeah.
but I do think being prepared with the language in the contract.
and we can
I think
easily
is-
do that.
And that way, nobody's having to reinvent things
Yeah.
on the fly when we're in the middle of something. The only other thing I would say is if we're really considering that, and it sounds like it's a valid option. There is a benefit to somebody starting and getting their feet under themselves in our program before they take on a second program. I think bringing somebody in and throwing them into two programs right out of the gate is kind of brutal. But that's just, you know, I have a business degree. I can add, I get, I get the numbers. I understand the challenge there, but I do think bringing somebody in and throwing them into two programs is a lot to ask.
I have to agree with you on that.
That said, I will support your decision and do whatever you need me to do.
Okay,
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. We've been throwing this ball back and forth. I don't know how many months. And we get it settled and then John comes up with something else. Then we get it settled and then John comes up with something else. John does not seem like he's on board with any of it. And it seems like he's doing what he can to sabotage it longer. That's my feeling. So I think we ought to get going and choose somebody. Because if we wait for who John wants us to wait for again, which I think we already talked to them and they were on board, then they weren't on board, and now they're on board, and I don't think they actually know what they're doing. And I think Alpena can handle the situation. We proved ourselves with the ice storm, and that was on a fly. I mean, we weren't prepared for it, but as far as I'm concerned, we come out on top. And I think we can handle it without having another county come in with us. So I think we ought to just get going and let's get it done.
So let me kind of
Yes.
come back with a couple comments on that.
Yes, John.
I have never been on board with a full-time emergency
Never.
manager. and-
Never.
And she knows that back
I know
when.
that.
So this has never been, but I was on board when we talked about going in, splitting the responsibilities with Montmorency. I was totally on board with that because we figured out what the costs were. I knew we could handle that. When Montmorency pulled out, and that's when I started thinking of other options and trying to figure out which direction to go to and to go with this. I reached out to Alcona. I was looking at some other options that didn't work out. And then when I found out that Presqu'île lost their EM to go over to Montmorency, I'm like, so now Presqu'île is in the same boat. And granted, like the guy said to me this morning, nothing happens quick. So by the time I got the conversations with their chair, and then he didn't respond to me, and then I reached out again. So I'd say that we all know, and I'm making this perfectly clear, I have never been on board, even going back to when we first.
Everybody knows, John.
Well, I know, I'm just making a point that even when we go back to the initial hiring of the EM, I wasn't really for that.
No.
But my point is that, again, I know this is dragged out, but
Yes.
again, I can't help that people haven't responded or, there's some things. So I think that we're still at that point where we haven't gone down the road so far, we can't turn back. We're still at that fork in the road, if you will. We can go this way or we can go that way. I don't think that, even if it was one more month to get more details and more information, whether Presqu'île is going to be in on this, I still feel that we should at least explore that option because we're at that point. We're not so far down any road that we can't literally take the time to look to see what this will work, how this will work.
Would a good would a good step forward maybe be for me to go and collect the additional questions and information from the two? Because it sounds like we have questions for both of them still. And then maybe call a special personnel meeting in 2 or 3 weeks before the next personnel meeting, where you guys can choose from those two once I give you the questions. And then that'll give Chairman Kozlowski 2 weeks to get a hold of Presque Isle to see if maybe we can't hammer out, you know. And maybe once I talk to my counterpart in Presque Isle, you know, it might move faster than, you know.
I personally would like more information on both because I personally think there's merit in actually moving that function into the sheriff's department. I don't see how we're gonna make it work from a money standpoint, but if we could figure that out, I'd be interested in pursuing that option. Ultimately, I think it needs to be filled even if we don't have, we're going solo, just to be full disclosure. But I think there's a lot of merit in trying to partner up with Presque Isle, as John's suggesting they may be interested in doing.
How
The
about,
function is effectively the same, whether it's our county or Presque Isle County.
right,
Okay, so, and I understand Kim's concern about different programs, but basically if we are gonna provide that service, the program can look exactly like whatever our program is. So I think that there's merit in considering.
so do the three of you, would you like to send me, or we can talk after this meeting, whatever questions you might have for the two. I'll collect them, gather those up and get those to you in an email. And then we can choose maybe another meeting in 2 weeks. If that
And
works.
I would be fine with scheduling another meeting in 2 weeks because the deadline's just up against time, so I have no issue with that. I mean, that makes sense.
Question,
Also.
Kim. So you said something about direction on moving forward to find out, provide or ask for funding. Either way, we're not going to get, if we have a full-time person, we're not getting 100% funding. If it's a part-time person, we're not getting 100% funding. So,
I guess my question would be if it's not gonna be a full-time person, then it's just gonna be, it'll continue to be a part-time position and I'll just submit my information for their consideration. Even if the person coming in makes less than my half of that, they're only gonna reimburse us a percentage of what we spend. If there's consideration at all of it being a full-time position, currently I'm only part-time in that program. So if I submit my current payroll and benefit information for the next year's budget, then that's all you're gonna get is that percentage of my, if that makes sense. But if you're not at all considering it being a full-time position, then I'll just submit my information and let it stand at that. I just want to do my due diligence to make sure that I get back the best reimbursement that is possible for the program.
Would you be happy with a part-time position? Or would you prefer full-time? And do you have the work for a full-time?
There's a lot that can be done that I don't have the time to scratch the surface on. I hit our requirements and try to grab extra things where I can, but being part-time, it does limit the engagement that we can do. There's a lot more community engagement we can do. There's engagement with the schools. Now, that said, if we shared a person with either Montmorency or Presque Isle, I mean, there is a school association that those counties are also affiliated with. So, I mean, there's enough work for a full-time person, but could we share with another county to lessen the financial burden and make it work? Absolutely. My personal opinion is, just based on my experience, that having an EM for 2 counties is still more beneficial because there's still just one focus. Even though it's 2 counties, it's one focus. Everything they do is emergency management. Where with me, I have 2 separate lanes. Even though it's for 1 county, they're very separate lanes. So I think that sharing the 2 counties, I don't think is out of the realm of conversation and possibility at all. I think we could very successfully have 2 counties. There's actually a gentleman, the state allows you to have 3, but apparently these counties got special permission. There's actually an EM that covers 4 counties. And he said he would be more than happy to talk to the new person. Back when we were going to do it with Montmorency, I had more dealings with him than normal through the storm. But he said he'd be more than happy to talk to our new person and kind of show him some of the time-saving things that he's come up with, as far as all the paperwork and including more than one county in the trainings and things like that. He said he'd be more than happy to work with us on that. But I think that having the one lane, even though it's 2 counties, I think is a huge benefit if we're gonna stick with a part-time person. I think if we get a part-time just for us, you're gonna be limited to somebody who's probably a retired firefighter. And I mean, no disrespect to retired firefighters, but you're not gonna get somebody that's gonna come and stay if it's a standalone part-time position. I don't think. Now, that said, there are firefighters who are retired and they're young and have lots of years to work. But I think that's probably going to be where the candidates lie for that kind of a position. I don't think you're going to get somebody that's going to come and stay and build their career here for a part-time job.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I think at this point, we should really go with what Jesse would like to do, is bring back Nick and JP so we can speak to them again, get our questions answered. In the meantime, that would get John his 2 weeks to get the other one on board and hope they don't change their minds again.
Well, they didn't ever waver on their changing their minds. When I initially talked to their board chair, probably just over a month ago, he was supposed to bring it to their full board, which I don't think that happened, because I reached out a couple weeks ago or a week ago, actually last week, and talked to, Jennifer reached out and talked to the chair of their personnel, and that's when they added it to their personnel discussion. And he said that from the conversations, they were good to look at this option.
Okay, well, I think it's a good idea if we,
Okay, so
you think,
I don't think we need to bring them back. I think we should actually generate a list of the questions that we have on both avenues with JP's situation and with Presskill's thing, and generate that. Go out for the information, get it back at least a few days before our next special meeting. So we have a little chance to digest it and have an intelligent conversation.
So if you guys can give me your questions, either again verbally or by email, by this Friday, I can compile them. I can get them to the 2 applicants to fill out. I can get that back to you Friday evening, probably, or Monday rather. And then maybe we can discuss, maybe after next week's Finance Ways and Means, the 3 of you and I can maybe just meet real quick and determine if those answers were sufficient, or if maybe you do want the second interview in person. And then maybe you could, I'm looking at maybe a special meeting on the 16th at noon. That's 2 weeks from today, if that works for everybody.
what day is that on?
16th. It doesn't have to be that day. I'm just looking at possibilities.
16th, which day?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I'm open on
I'm
that.
sorry, Cameron, is the sheriff online right now? He'd like to say something.
Can you hear me, guys?
There you are.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've been paying attention to what you guys have been discussing, and I just want to put this out there. If it does come to our office, that is a union position, Sergeant Ritter's position, and our deputies are union. So when we go forward, if you choose to bring it to the sheriff's office, I just want to throw this out on the table, that we can't just pick a person to fill it. It has to be awarded to the sheriff's office, and then we have to promote according to union contracts.
The emergency manager position is not union,
Yeah, but if you bring it to our office,
still not
Yeah.
union.
well, and so that
It'd be
throws a
like,
whole-
it's similar to like cat working for you. It'd be a non-union position under you.
well, so and that throws in a whole thing that you may have to discuss, if you're going to bring Sergeant Ritter over, because that's something he's going to have to consider. So I'm just throwing that out there because it also throws a whole nother wrench in how we go forward with that, if that's how you choose to do it.
Sure. So you're saying because JP is in the union right now, that could be, might be something that he tries to keep is being a union position?
Well, this all hinges on where you're going to put it and what it's going to be at our office. We discussed before, if it's a sergeant or a lieutenant, that those are union positions that are within our agency. And
But
so if you
Yeah, but-
choose to not to have it a union position, yeah, we don't have to offer it as a promotion, but it creates a little bit. It's not just black and white and easy. We really have to define what it is and how we're going to go forward at doing that if it comes to our office.
So it is not a union position.
No, and there is no duplicity here. So either he's working as emergency manager or he's working as sergeant.
There's no in between.
This is not something that you guys are offering as a hybrid.
And one thing that JP did say in his interview, that he did not believe it was a full-time job. So I think that's where he was trying to tie things together. So
Create that applicant
which
field.
goes back to what I keep saying is, I don't feel this is a full-time position, 100% of someone's time. That's why I think if we can combine it with, a Mount Morency and it's part-time here, part-time there, which again, you've said too, where you're working on policies, programs, whatever, and those programs and policies can be used in both counties.
So I think it's important to know whether,
I just need directive
yeah,
because I'm getting none right now.
Yeah, I need to know if JP wants the full-time job and he is going to step down from the sheriff's department, or does he want to stay with the sheriff's department and consider this a
Yeah,
part-time job? And he's not giving us any feedback, so we do not know what he wants.
Yeah, so you want to know if it's a full-time position, whether he's expected to be moved, if it being moved hinges on his taking it, and whether or not it would be a union position.
Okay.
Correct.
And, right. And Nick, we already know he wants a full-time position, which he is qualified.
That's one thing that I know that members have brought up, though, is just him making sure that he's dedicated to staying with us for, for a lengthy period and not
Right.
a short period.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So,
All right. And then as you guys are thinking about it, I know it's on the spot, so just if you can get me any additional questions in by Friday, I'll compile a list. And then I'll maybe create a couple of other ones that just from things that members may have mentioned or others.
okay,
I'll send them out to you to approve before the applicants.
okay. And then John's got 2 weeks to figure out or talk to who he wants to.
so John, you talked to Bob Ritzky,
Yeah.
and he's on board with it.
Is he, I'm not sure what the guy's name is, that's the vice chair.
That I don't know.
So the guy, I think it was Bob that told me that that's a conversation I had this morning, that he was 100% on board with it. And the vice chair is on board with it. And again, conversation with their chair a month ago, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago. And in the conversation, he was 100% on board with thinking that it's not a full-time position and could be split between. But I gotta, I guess, circle back and then double check with him because I heard some comments and I just need to verify.
Joe Libby.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's who I talked to this morning.
Okay, I know both those guys. If you don't mind, would you mind if I had a conversation with those guys?
But I do know we cannot keep going back and forth, back and forth. So when we do this, we'll have to make a decision.
Well, Brenda, here's the good news. We have no more counties around us that we can
Oh,
reach out
you might
to.
decide to go to Sheboygan or Roger City or Posen or somebody. Hillman, who knows?
Well, they're Mount Morency, so.
I don't know. Okay, so September 16th, it's on a Tuesday. Did you say we did have a meeting that day?
No, I can set it for 2 weeks from today at noon. So
Okay, 12 noon.
because you guys have finance ways and means next Tuesday, so that would give us some time for me to get the answers back to you, you to review them, and we can, if you'd like to do.
Okay. September 16th, I'm good. Okay, everybody else good?
Yep.
All right, now we know what we are doing, hopefully. Is that satisfactory with you, Kim, with that suffice? Okay, thank you. All right, and next we have and Jesse on the board members' attendance policy.
So commissioners, I've gotten contacted in the last month by two different boards, the opioid remediation fund steering committee and the older persons committee, both expressing the same frustration that they have individuals who are just not showing up, who've been appointed. And in some cases, it's cutting it very close to them being able to make quorum and cast votes. So separately, it was just by coincidence, separately, they both contacted me wanting to know if the board would take action in instilling a new policy where after 3 missed meetings without notice, the seat would be considered vacated. And then either that individual commissioner or the board, depending on who their origin is for that appointment, would then be able to fill that position with a different person. So just looking to adopt this policy and implement it, if adopted and if passed during the consent calendar next week, we'll send that out to each of the boards so that they're all aware that this is a new policy that they can implement if they'd like to. Obviously,
You say, you said older persons and steering
and
opioid?
the opioid remediation steering committee have both had members who've missed 3 or more meetings without notice.
So the older persons would have been the person that we appointed.
Right.
So then, is that what you said? Then we would have to,
Yeah, I mean, I can get you the names of the individuals. The older persons would be that would be an individual on this board who would have to
yeah.
appoint. Whereas the opioid remediation committee is appointed by the board as a whole. So you would be able to consider a new member.
How often do they meet?
The opioid is just kind of as is right now. It's its first year, so we're really kind of learning kind of the structure and what works and isn't working. I'm guessing they'll have probably at least 2, possibly 3 more meetings before the end of the year. They're meeting sometimes twice a month. They're not taking a per diem or anything, so it's all just volunteer. Whereas the older persons committee, is that 4 times a year?
Well, I think it's as many as they need because they already, or they submitted their
Yeah,
request for next year. So I think they meet no more than 6 times a year.
yeah, I don't even think they meet that many.
Yeah, probably 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was the vice chair from the opioid remediation committee and the chair of the older persons committee who contacted me, letting me know these absences are becoming a hindrance to them conducting the business.
Maybe we should start paying per diem for the opioid committee.
They were given the opportunity to take a per diem and they declined it. So,
Well, we could do the same thing for the next person
yeah.
if we have to replace. You can either take it or not. It's up to you.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve the policy to
Attendance policy.
the attendance policy for the meetings that the county commissioners appoint to.
Support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then Madam Chair, just one other item under other discussion. And I apologize for not having this on the agenda, but we do have to get noted the road commission board vacancies. That's supposed to go up in the month of September. I think you have copies of what that would read.
Yes.
So that'll be what's posted on our website. We'll also put in the paper just that we're posting for it and refer them to the website for description. But this would be allow us to start collecting the applications because the timeline that the board approved was that we would start collecting them in September. We would review and choose somebody in October. Full board would then adopt that recommendation, hopefully in November. And then that way the new individuals would have a little over a month to kind of, get their feedback maybe.
And that is up by the 23rd of September?
Correct.
Yes, being by the 23rd. Okay. That's going to be on our county website.
It will be, yes. Yep. It will also make sure it's on our social media.
Okay. Sounds good.
I just need a motion to go ahead and post it as presented.
Make a motion to present the position as presented.
Support.
We have motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Okay, now we have employee separations.
Know of any, Jennifer on?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So we had 3 separations this month. We had one in the animal control, one of the district court clerks, her last day is this week. And then we also had a Marine officer retire, and that's it for this month.
So you're saying they have an opening in Marine, as a Marine officer?
I'm not quite sure what the sheriff's plan is on filling that.
I'd have to give them a call.
Oh, no. Is the sheriff still on? Is he? Oh,
I am on.
could you,
Jennifer, who was the one that resigned as a Marine officer?
Jim McNeil?
He wasn't a Marine officer. He was a bailiff in court.
Oh, gotcha. I had him down for a dual employment as a Marine and bailiff.
Yeah, he worked as bailiff.
you can't do that.
Someday, maybe.
No, don't even think about it. Are you going to replace him? Sheriff?
Yeah, we were working on it because it's easier to pay part-time than full-time to cover bailiffs. The good thing is we have some people in the hopper, so that's good.
All
Jim
right,
McNeil already worked 32 years downstate, and then he came here. He worked here for 10 plus years as a bailiff. He's originally from Alpena, but he worked Sturgis, Michigan. That's where his family is. So now that he's getting older, he wants to be closer to his grandkids. And I just had a conversation with him this morning, and he appreciated what Alpena County did for him for the last several years, and left on really good terms. And I wish the best for the fellow.
Good, thank you.
thank you. Okay, next, we're going into closed session for personnel and contract. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Britton,
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Fournier.
Here. Okay. All right,
Commissioners, kind of the closed session, you have three motions. The first motion is to adopt the amendment to the contract with the Correction Officers Union regarding the in lieu of. Just looking for a motion to go ahead and continue forward with signing that with that amendment.
Make that motion.
Support.
all in favor?
Well, is this, do we have?
Are you gonna do them separate or together?
Well, I think because this is money related, do we have to do a roll call on that one?
Could you roll call?
It would be safer, I think.
Yeah, okay,
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
yes.
The second motion is to adjust the payroll for Chrissy Delecta to reflect that which has been granted for 2026 to begin effective the next pay period.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Okay, motion support, no, roll call,
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
yes.
And the third motion is to do away with the fairgrounds manager contract and go forward with just having them as a regular employee.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Okay, roll call,
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
yes.
All I have.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
right,
Support.
next meeting, October 7th at 12.